Welcome to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. I'm your host, Maritza Barone. In this show, I will introduce you to ideas, concepts, and mindsets that will open your mind to a new world of well-being and personal life growth. Through eye-opening interviews, we elevate people in the world doing amazing things for humanity and share insights that will shift you to become the happiest, healthiest, kindest, and most compassionate version of you. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Things You Can't Unhear. I'm your host, Maritza Barone. Now, today I'm going to talk about how to be a powerful communicator. I've been approached several times recently to share my insights into the power of communicating, as I've chosen communication as my career in media and also through the work we do at Conscious Conversations, where we're igniting and empowering people to communicate at a deeper level. So I want to chat about it here too, as I've been thinking a lot about this lately. When we think about human communication, there are several main relationships in life where we use our communication the most. That's obviously our romantic relationships, our friendships, the relationships with our kids or our parents or our family members, our work colleagues, and potentially audiences that we may have. When we connect with another human being, whether you want to use your voice for sharing your ideas to the world, for work, or be it simply just to have a good conversation, strong communication can be empowering for you and for those you are communicating with. So how do we even go about sharing more depth to the ways we are communicating, and why does it even matter? And how can we empower others to also communicate more effectively so that we can deepen our relationships and our conversations? When I was asked the question, why is good communication so powerful? I answered, because when we truly connect with others, we feel like we have a purpose and have been seen and actually heard. We exist on a deeper level. And being truly curious about people and their experiences, their stories, and their thoughts. For me, when I'm interviewing someone on the podcast or on any other platform, I know that all I need is curiosity in order to draw the story from them, genuine curiosity. And I take this into my everyday life when I talk to people to make sure that the connections that I have are stronger and more meaningful. So how do we start to build on the way we communicate so it breaks below the surface? Well, for me, there are a few main ways we can think about if we want to take our communication to the next level. The first one is, of course, listening. I know it sounds so simple, but actually listening. This has become a lost art with so many of us in a world full of distractions. So this means paying attention fully, being present, not being half into the conversation by replying to a text message at the same time, or even worse, scrolling social media while someone's trying to talk to you. Yes, most of us are guilty of this these days, unfortunately, but if we truly want to have powerful communication, we need to put the distractions away. I've noticed this even on Zoom meetings. You know, when people have flicked their screens and are checking or replying to emails, and they've got this weird concentration look on their face and are trying to pretend they're still listening to you. And you can instantly feel as though they've lost interest in what you're saying. And we all know how that feels when we're the one talking and trying to be heard. It doesn't feel great. Now, listening is not just a skill for when others are talking. It's really important for when you are talking too. I see communication in everyday life as a two-way street. It's like a song and a dance. And yes, there are people out there who like to talk more than others, and that's totally fine. But I believe communication or conversation should be an equal exchange of energy, a back and a forth, which allows each other to share and also to listen. Because there are ways in which we can over-communicate sometimes, which can possibly become overwhelming and disinteresting for others. I'll give you an example. Recently, I had a conversation with someone I'd met a few times, and this person was super friendly, absolutely lovely, and really upbeat. And to give context, where we were in a social setting where people were all standing around and chatting in small groups. And this person spoke for 10 to 15 straight minutes, and they were sharing a story with absolutely no break, no end in sight, and I sort of felt a bit hostage to the conversation because I couldn't even break out of it even if I wanted to. And for me, I love nothing more than hearing people's stories. But in order to communicate more powerfully, I think we really need to be clear and concise when we're delivering our information and telling our stories to keep people interested. Little details like whether it happened on a Tuesday or on a Thursday doesn't matter. Or if it happened in spring of 1998 or in autumn of 1999 makes little difference to the impact your story will have on the people listening. Sometimes we can speak too much or too little, but you can get so much from feeling into the energy of your audience, whether that's one person, 5 people, or 500 people, it doesn't matter. And by reading into how your communication is being received. I suggest picking up the non-verbal cues, the eye contact, the body language can say so much and will give you clues on if your ways of communicating are working well or not. Another big thing for me is friendliness and approachability. It's another great starting point for powerful communication. If someone has a smile on their face, starting a conversation with them is going to be much easier and most likely much more enjoyable too. If you're talking to an audience and you're smiling, your likability and the way people resonate with you will be much more powerful. I've always been told that I'm quite easy to approach, and it's always worked well for me when I wanted to meet new people. Turns out I am no different to anyone else. It's just that I smile most of the time. My friends always would comment on how often I would get approached out in social settings, and it was literally just because I appeared to be friendly, because I had a smile on my face. And it's always worked well in work situations as well. My employees have always found it easy to come to me with any issues or concerns, or you know what, even better, amazing ideas that they had. We don't know what brilliant conversations or communication we are missing if we block ourselves off or appear guarded. Another useful factor to note in communicating powerfully is empathy and using open, inclusive language. So using words such as us or we instead of you or them, or using you could instead of you should, makes a world of difference. So here's an example. Say you're going to ask someone to redo something that they've worked on. If it's your kids, even the plumber, or one of your staff. It all works the same way. Let's have a look at the way we can phrase these sentences. So you could say, this isn't how I wanted it. Can you do that again, please? Or you could say, thanks for your work so far. Although, can we look at another way to try this? See the difference? The power of words can evoke different feelings in people. The child, the plumber, or the employee is instantly going to feel more empowered by your words, rather than directed and instructed, which may not get the best out of them. You will have probably noticed actually in this podcast, I'm using as many inclusive words as possible. I'm saying may or may not. I'm saying could or could not instead of should or should not. I'm trying to avoid making assumptions because truly we don't know what other people are thinking. And this gives others a feeling of more power and freedom where they don't feel dictated to. Communication for me is one of the true joys of life. It's how we interact with each other as humans. And at the end of the day, what we want to feel is that people just get us and understand who we are at our core and just give us the time to allow us to feel seen and heard in this crazy world of ours. What we say, what we do, how we listen, and how we speak makes such an impact on people. Like I always say to my kids or to anyone who will listen, always leave people making them feel better about themselves than when you arrived. And the best way we can do that is by showing interest in them and opening the pathway to clear, open, authentic communication. Thank you for listening to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. I'd love to keep the conversation going. Let us know what you thought of this episode, and if something profound came up for you that you want to share Let's talk about it. You can find me on Instagram at Things You Can't Unhear or on my personal page at Maritza_Barone. And if someone you know will benefit from something that was said in this show, make sure you share it with them too. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and keep up to date with what's next. And if you can spare a few seconds, please rate and review the show on iTunes, just so other people can find us more easily and quickly. And as always, my friends, be happy, be healthy, be conscious, and be kind.